Person-centred reviews. What are they and how can they help? Reviews are required by services, and many of us have sat in reviews where people have not been listened to, things have not moved forward, and there's been very little to inspire or motivate real change. Fundamentally, they don't work for people who use services. Person-centred reviews are a way to change this. They put the person at the centre of the review of their support, basing outcomes and actions on what's important to them and how they want to be supported both now and in the future, and what's working and not working for themselves and others. This process can meet all statutory requirements, but the spirit, the atmosphere, and most importantly the outcomes are very different to traditional reviews. Person-centred reviews have been taking place across the country in all areas of service, from learning disability services, older people and people living with dementia, to those using probation services. The responses from people using services, families, as well as professionals has been really positive, like Peter from the north of England saying that he would never want a normal review again. They are starting to be used in health as well, where they form a crucial part of personalised care and support planning. So why would you want to do a person-centred review? What difference could it make? Well, person-centred reviews do what they say on the tin. They involve the person and make sure that the centre of any planning, but also they can make sure that people are living the life that they want and celebrate and appreciate the things that are working well. They encourage people to aspire to improve their lives and change what's not working. They identify next steps and set realistic actions to achieve them. They are outcome focused, and they gather information to be shared and developed as further person-centred information and contribute to commissioning through a process called Working Together for Change. For professionals who are juggling enormous demands on their time, the person-centred review process doesn't take any more time, but has a very different outcome. For many professionals, it's a more satisfying way of working, and it means that professionals are not sat around a table reading from their reports. So what does a person-centred review look like? Well, to start with, there's no big table of people sitting around reading reports. The room is usually set up with flip charts on the walls, each of which ask a specific question. There are chairs set out informally, and if the person wants, there's music playing in the background as well. There are refreshments of the person's choice and an array of pens for people to write with. It already feels very different to a traditional review, doesn't it? So what are the headings? Well, they're based around person-centred thinking tools. First of all, we find out who's here, and that enables us to have a record of who contributed to the review. Then we ask what we appreciate about the person, so that we're basing the review in a strengths-based perspective. This begins the meeting with a clear sense of being very different to traditional reviews, and makes sure that those at the meeting are thinking beyond the person's diagnosis, beyond what's wrong in their life, and to see them as an individual with gifts and capacities. Next, it's progress on actions and outcomes, and this helps us to see what's been achieved since the last meeting and focus on success and progress. It's also important to see if anything has not been achieved. It's important to check these things out, as actions can get forgotten or not fully move forward if there's been a change in staff or an obstacle of some sort. The next heading is what's important to the person now. This is about looking at the things that really matter to the person, that make them happy, that are really significant in their life. For some people, it's small things like a particular routine of having a cup of tea and a biscuit every afternoon, to much more significant things, perhaps like staying healthy to keep out of hospital or being able to see family and friends. We need to gather this information from the person, who's the expert in their own life, and also those who know them best about what must be present in the person's life, what matters to them. Then we look at the person's aspirations, and sometimes we phrase that as a question, if I could, I would. It's critical that people are supported to think about the future that they want. This could be about future work, such as being a mechanic or joining a club and following your interests, or even volunteering and making new friends. The next heading is what's important for the person and what does good support look like. This includes what the person needs to stay healthy and safe or be part of their community. These are often talked about in terms of need or even risk, and the things that people need to have in their life to support them to be healthy, safe and well. Best support is specifically looking at what others need to know or do to support the person in a way that makes sense to them, what professionals or staff need to do to meet their statutory requirements, as well as making sure the person gets the support they need. This could be making sure that the person has the communication aids that they need, or issues to do with statutory assessment and access to funding. Then the next heading is what's working and not working from different perspectives. We ask the person what's working well in their life and what's not going well, and ask the same question for other people who are important in the person's life. For some people this is family, it will also be professionals and perhaps supporters if the person is receiving services. This is also where we record differences of opinion that helps us see where we have a shared view of what's working, but also where we might have differences to move forward on. If we're reviewing a care and support plan, we would look at this around health, well-being and the person's personal budget if they're using one. The next heading is questions to answer. This heading enables people to think about any issues that are of concern that we need to address, and it's also where any statutory requirements are covered too. This gives the person and their supporters a place to record questions or issues that need to be figured out and turned into actions by the end of the review. And then outcomes and actions. Once the information has been gathered and shared, the next stage is to explore any differences of opinion and develop outcomes based on moving the person towards their aspirations, building on what's working and changing anything that isn't working. In this way, the person-centred review makes it more likely that the person will have what's important to them in their life, what matters to them, and move them towards the future that they want. This is also where the questions to answer are addressed, either immediately then and there, or actions relating to how this information or problems will be solved. Actions are agreed that are smart and that address the things that really matter to the person. So these are all the headings in the person-centred review, but what's the process? At the beginning of the review, the facilitator or the person asks everybody to introduce themselves in terms of their role and contribution in that person's life, and also talk about what they appreciate and value about the person. That might be just one word or a short phrase. Then the group will look at progress on actions and record what's going well, perhaps under what's working, and anything that hasn't happened under not working or questions to answer. The facilitator then invites everyone to get a pen and record their contributions under all of the different headings, which will be on flip charts around the wall. This first part of the review either records for the first time or builds on what we already understand is important to the person and how they want to be supported, and creates a shared understanding of this. We then compare this to how the person is living now by asking what's working and not working from their perspective and from others, and think about what else we need to figure out or learn. We look at what the person wants in the future and what we can do together to move towards this. We might see that a change can be made within current structures and resources, or what needs to change might require a change in structure or funding. The actions agreed should change what's not working, add to our learning about the person, and move closer to the life the person wants in the future. Fundamentally, person-centred reviews are co-production in action. This means that before the review even takes place, the facilitator and the person decide who to involve, how to involve them, and how the person wants to be involved to make sure everything is focused around them and they're playing the active role that they choose to. But person-centred reviews can also work brilliantly for people who don't use words to speak too. How can reviews be used in the future? Well, person-centred reviews can be used by any person in receipt of services which require a statutory review in health or social care. We also know that they work really well in education and are starting to be introduced in some places in criminal justice too. But this process could be used much more widely. We're currently seeing how they're being used with teams to review team performance, being used with organisations to move on with their development plan, and contribute to commissioning intentions and organisational development through a process called Working Together for Change. But they could also be used by service personnel coming out of the armed services, by families thinking about major changes in their lives, and we're sure there are lots of other possibilities too. So what ideas do you have? Why not post them on our Facebook page? And together, let's be part of enabling person-centred reviews to be a way that puts the person at the centre of decisions about their lives, moves forward to achieve outcomes and actions, and contributes through working together for change to the way that services and commissioning works too.